One of my closest friends, a longtime partner in crime from our undergraduate days, is now a professor in the very same department of biology where we once tormented instructors with our collegiate antics. Ethan's doctorate is in one of the most difficult, most fascinating, and now most contentious disciplines in the biological sciences: genetics. James Watson and Francis Crick examined the X-ray studies of one of their contemporaries and first proposed the double helix orientation of the DNA molecule. Their 1953 paper, Molecular Structure of Nucleic Acids, a Structure for Deoxyribose Nucleic Acid, identified the unusual orientation of the DNA strand and the base pairs of nucleotides that hold the two separated strands together. Watson and Crick received the Nobel Prize for the discovery in 1962, and their names have been synonymous with genetics ever since. So what could this possibly have to do with competitive intelligence? The purpose of DNA is storing and, over time, expressing information. By its own elegant structure, DNA is intended to be copied, moved, stored, altered, and improved for one purpose: to be passed on, to reproduce, to continue, to be as valuable tomorrow as it was today, or perhaps even more so. Businesses are just like biological organisms in that they wish to remain a going concern. The areas of DNA with information for building an organism are called genes. Other DNA sequences have other sets of instructions, very similar in many respects to software codes, thus malicious software is described as a virus, that are triggered by internal and external stimuli. This can be as basic as the passage of time, or as complicated as a foreign chemical that is threatening the strand's existence and requires a defensive response. By way of perspective, the largest human chromosome is over 220 million base pairs long. That's a single chromosome of the 23 pairs we pass on to our children. Overall, there are 3 billion base pairs in each meter-long DNA strand. It's a lot of data packed into every one of our cells. The twisted orientation of DNA is the most efficient way to pack all of that information in as small a space as possible. So overall, the DNA strand is a pretty resilient little model for how business can approach the concept of actionable information. Companies have similar internal and external triggers. They, too, pass information on to future generations. They have instructions for building, serving, delivering, and protecting something. Like the DNA strand, they are prepared to take defensive action when a threat looms. A business also processes, stores, and manipulates important data to store its prior history, serve its current needs, and protect its future interests. Like the DNA strand, it has to accommodate environmental fluctuations that are not always favorable. It must adapt and evolve. As history has repeatedly shown, adaptation is not always an easy thing. One uncontroversial aspect of Charles Darwin's seminal work on evolution is the criticality of adaptation to survival. All organisms, biological, national, corporate, or otherwise, wish to survive, preferably to thrive, so they store up needed energy and resources for periods when times are tougher. At one time or another, resources were available for all. Sunlight and water, shelter and food, or finance and talent were easily acquired without difficulty. In modern times, however, things have changed. Resources are increasingly scarce, and this scarcity is now an accepted tenet of existence. As the supply of resources dwindles, the costs of the increasing demand rises. Soon, everyone is no longer able to share the limited resources equally. It becomes a zero-sum transaction. For one entity to acquire the resource, another entity is left wanting. Competition picks up and creates conflict everywhere. We no longer live together in harmony. Restaurants covet street corner locations because the ease of entry brings more traffic. As a result, competing restaurants cause the prices of the locations to escalate. Technology companies ratchet up starting salaries for promising graduates most likely to develop the next must-have technology application. Small businesses pitch angel investors and venture capitalists who have less money to spread around than a decade ago. Conflict is not just a way of life. It's the only way of life.